Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, with the mostly Zerg player in the blue, currently invading Korea, the Italian Stallion. It's Reynor, up against the top-tier tech toss in the red classic. A best of 5 Protoss versus, I'm gonna assume, Zerg finals. As with Reynor, it's never 100%, but he's also said he'd rather cut off his hand than play Protoss versus Protoss, and who can really blame him? But that's enough time for introductions, as there's barely enough time for Reynor to react, or me to beg for likes and subscribes. And Jimmy, what? That's a cannon, it's like a macro cannon. I'm not exactly sure. 1,306 likes on this video, on this cast, this series. Could be a short one. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get a little bit better. Then whoever's on the losing side of this one, a zealot is coming in. 2 cannons on the back line, clearly prepared. When you're in a region where dark is involved, you kind of come up with a plan to deal with the gold base. But it looks like Reynor building a spine. Drone comes out, dodge it. Well, temporarily dodges a hit. Spine crawler's done. We'll scamper over to the side. Shield battery on the back line. He was able to build this all before the hatch finished. Not gonna contest it. A spine crawler can beat a cannon 1v1, but not if it has to burrow in the first place. Well, Zerglings come across the map and get in. The Queen, Brenda! I can't believe it. They send me to the worst places. I don't... Looks like the cannons are going to kill the hatch. Reynor forced to pull back. The spine crawler indicates he wanted to defend here. Usually you wouldn't commit a significant portion of your early economy, especially with a base like this, to a spine, unless you thought you could break out, but Classic was able to lock it down with time to spare. Takes out the hatchery. The broodlings don't even have a target because there's technically no path to those cannons for them. Zerglings hunted down the spine crawler, looking a bit impotent now. The flaccid spine unrooted. And, well, wait. Okay, well, it's a bit odd to ask of a tentacle-based creature, but will it fit? Yes. All right. Well, got to be more optimistic in the future, but the spine. Now, another important question. I don't actually know the answer. We may find out. Is a queen or a uprooted spine crawler? Obviously not a rooted spine crawler, but is a spine crawler or a queen faster off creep? I want to say a queen is faster than a building, but I'm like 90%. I'm pretty sure. All right. Well, The drone's just waiting for it. There's also 2 adepts here, but there's enough Zerglings to deal with them for now. The real story's happening between the spines and the queens. Spine crawler still just hanging out. The cannon outpost will remain as Zerglings. Ooh. Overlord gets taken out. We'll scout the adept, or no, not the adept. Technically an adept, but the Oracle and Stalker here. So Reynor in a very awkward spot, because he wanted to break out, get shut down, already kind of limited on the drone count, doesn't have any of the advantages that usually a lower economy Zerg would have, which is likely some sort of tech, or at least a decent amount of creep spread. I guess he's kind of creeping backwards here, as he started out from the gold base, but Overlord, Oracle, driven out. Shield, well, that's convenient. Shield battery just flies right over. Free shields can come back in for more. Not a big deal, but quite a nice pit stop there. And until Reynor is able to get something significantly more than just Zerglings or a few queens, then the Oracles kind of have free reign over things. Burn through the creep tumor. Creep joining up on the other side, though. The queens coming together. Get off my... Well, Classic actually going quite far in. Takes a lot of damage on one of the Oracles, but keeps it intact. Is now warping in some adepts at the forward cannon base. And adding some more from back home. Well, he takes a 3rd Nexus. Reynor desperately trying to catch up on workers here, and may do so. But at what cost? as 10 Zerglings and 5 Queens are all he has against multiple Oracles and Adepts. He can't really make any mistakes here. The brave, heroic Spine Crawler will at least zone out some of the Adepts. But this is a very thin margin with minimal economy for Reynor. And very hard to hold either side of this. Cost effectively, at least. Oh my. Classic. Loses one of the Oracles. The Queens will collapse and try to kill the rest. The Adepts shade in, but realize they have an opportunity. Jam behind the mineral line here. And slicing through Zerglings and drones alike. The kills keep stacking up. Some of the drones trapped in as well. The Adepts cancel at that last moment. It's not getting any easier. Behind it, there's Blink, there's +1, there's already 57 probes. Classic is building up more and more advantages. Whereas Reynor is struggling to even get his economy online. And oh, damned if you do and dead if you don't. The Oracles come in and burn away 17 drones dead in the last minute. And Classic is adding on another pylon and a gateway to use this as a staging area for a Blink push. The cannon rush, well, the cannon operating base. The cheese on the cob here. Sorry. +1 is done, though. And not even a lair, no melee upgrades. He's gonna have +1 ranged attack, Reynor. Which is something. Building some more spines, recognizing the threat that these impending Blink Stalkers pose. Even adding a few more drones here, which he needs, but can he afford? Somewhat paradoxically, but Classic has played this position incredibly well. Feels like he had a plan from the very start and has been able to execute on it, whereas Reynor has been scrambling. I'm reasonably certain he wanted to defend that hatchery, but just didn't work out. Brenda, where is everyone? There isn't anyone. Well, the force fields lock things in. There's no Ravagers anywhere. The Zerglings coming through, some from the back. Throws a force field out. But the Blink Stalkers with the Oracles overhead. Just incredibly efficient and incredibly well executed. Classic with a decisive victory. Kind of a build order one, but incredibly well done there in game number 1. And repeating his current, well, I guess career streak of beating Reynor. Kind of punching above his weight against him. Currently, Reynor is almost tied with Dark for best Zerg player in the world, though Rogue is making a very quick comeback lately. With Cyril not out of commission, but instead inactive until the major tournaments of the year. It's anyone's game, but so far Classic kind of defying the odds. And I'm not sure if let me know about putting the odds on here from a Ligulac. Now, you might have arguments about how the rankings are done, but nobody's put something more commonly accepted together. And recently, Reynor's had a lot of success in and out of Korea. So that gives him quite a favorable position, at least statistically. But Classic came prepared. So we're going into game 2. Jimmy. We're going into game 2. I already begged for, like, Crimson Court. Okay, Reynor. Want to see me do it again? He goes straight for the rich Vespine base down the center. I don't know if Classic is willing to commit to another cannon rush, or honestly, I don't think. Oh, he saw it. Do it. No, he's not. He would have already started it. He has the minerals. Dream. Think of the clickbait potential. But no, Classic. On this map where you're pretty much forced down the mid lane. Though, wait, is this pre-nerf? So, the map originally started with 6 sets of rocks on each of these choke points. It was downgraded to 4, and in a recent mini patch, it was downgraded to just 2 sets of rocks, as in 1, 2, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4. So, erosion is real, as we realized taking over a minute to get through one of the choke points. It did not make for the most interactive gameplay. All right? Still not an easy thing to do, but I think in matches that you'll see going forward, it'll be a little bit easier for players to move around and not get locked into the mid lane. Even though that's like a mobile player's natural environment. In fact, the most popular game modes, in my opinion, and most players' opinion, are the ones where that's all you can do. But random strategies are not as favorable. Twilight Council on the way for Classic. He's mixed it up. He's put the Stargate down and picked up the Twilight. Or at least done it first. Rarely do you go Twilight into Stargate, but instead the other way. Stargate into Twilight makes a lot more sense to fill in a ground army after scouting with the air. What's it going to be? Is this just glaives? He's banking up enough for a Dark Shrine. How dare you tease me like this? How dare you? Wait. He has, I'm looking at the gas here. Wait. But why a robo? What? He just makes a dips. I don't know if he wasn't scouting anything. He wasn't waiting for anything here in particular. Just making sure he has the full wall off. He knows about Reynor's rich Vespine base, but he's not mining the gas. Reynor is just going for the minerals. He hasn't even taken the extractor, which is crazy. And by crazy, I mean mildly interesting, but always more dramatic to say crazy. I think it was mostly for a mine game. As taking that front base, one, you don't have a lot of options if the probe is going to block. Two, that base screams you're going to do some sort of like Roach Ravager on it. As getting that extra... Dark would have already had Ravagers attacking. Alright, to be clear. Plenty of Zerglings on the way. There is still that Roach one, but it's a defensive one. Now realizing he sees... Okay, well, that gives it away. In case it wasn't clear before, the shade is lifted, and the shade is thrown. As that many Adepts can only mean one thing. The only question is whether there's going to be DTs behind. And that's a question Reynor can't easily answer. But he first has to deal with the Adepts directly. And that is a difficult thing to do. Alright, the Adepts. Glaives are done. Enough Zerglings. Gonna use that low ground. I don't think you can hit the mineral line. The Queens are gathering. Always a momentous event to them. Adepts come around the corner. Looking to lift it up again. Threatening with the War Prism. There are some roaches on the way. Reynor's only at 36 drones. He's really looking to shut this down with minimal damage. It will have to translate into damage on the other side. Classic has the minerals. Is he going to go for a Warpin? Or does he get the base? He goes for the Warpin. So he's intent on doing more and more damage. The Shades onto the center base. Gonna get a lot of damage done. Already 4 drones. Zerglings catching some of the Adepts in the main. Trying to target down some more. 5 drones dead. And Adepts at the natural. Shades converging. Still at the center. The Queens hold the line! Lucille, hold the line! But just this general area, not an exact line. It's a metaphor. Adepts everywhere. Throwing more shade than the Eclipse right now. Recalls back. Gets out with 3 Adepts, which seems, well, better than 0. Another Warping coming through. Reynor successfully scouts that Classic does not have a follow-up to this. Or he doesn't have a nexus behind this, but he may have a follow-up on the ground, to be more precise. In fact, there's an Overlord just hanging out, as they do when there's literally no anti-air units. So Reynor's been able to bounce back. He absorbed the damage. The Adepts are going to try to shade in and then get picked up by the Prism, but it just doesn't work out. And you just got to keep tabs on that Prism, because even if you have the Zerglings, the positioning can be just... Overlord. Well, it sees the Immortal. It sees no second gas of the natural. creep spread is making its way across. And the spore crawler moved into position here. And that... Well, now we're in another kind of... Very interesting mid-game. Oh, Immortal? Sentry. A single sentry, mostly for Guardian Shield. It should be. And still looking to get the damage done. Classic taking kind of a placeholder Nexus at the third. Adept shade by. You cannot let them go. At the natural, already taken so much damage. And distracting from the front. A couple extra sentries here. The Adept's just a meat shield. For the Immortals to be able to bash their way through. 6 drones down. Reynor back down to 44. And if he's able to get a couple good force fields, even with the Ravagers here, throws a Corrosive Bile out. Still that War Prism. Immensely difficult to deal with, but finally cleans up the Adepts. Working from the... He can hit it? What? Well, I guess that makes sense, but unfortunate for Reynor. Loses the Rich Vespine Geyser. Of course, he can rebuild it, but just quite an annoyance. 4 sentries. The Tickle defense. War Prism still hanging out. Classic doing a great job of playing keep away here from Reynor. He knows that if the War Prism goes down or the army gets caught out, it could be crushed. But Reynor hasn't been able to build up enough economy. Classic has controlled Reynor's opportunities here. And with this many sentries, even with force field, I don't think that's enough units. He slices it up, corrosive biles to try to escape. But the roaches are mostly dead already. Building up more and more energy. Still working from the low ground. The big weakness of that center base being shown here. As Classic now has the supply lead. He's got no forge, he's got no upgrades, but neither does Reynor. Not on the forge count, the upgrades count. It'd be weird if he did have one of those. War Prism taking some damage, but Force Field's gonna zone out, and Corrosive Bile does take time. He can join up with the army. War Prism still high health. Small counterattack, but a huge warping of Zealots. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I'm so used to Zealots. It's weird to see Adepts. And with no Banelings to deal with them, the Adept Immortal army composition here. He can juggle the Immortals onto the high ground. And Force Field's just zoning out. A surgical style here. As he tries to saw his way through. Just throws out one force. He's so methodical with the force fields. Corrosive Bile, though, pretty hard to dodge with Adepts. Shade is maybe the only way to reliably do so. He's... Well, does he call the bluff? Actually cancels some of the shades. Forces the issue. Here's some Banelings, though. Right into the center. And it may very well be that Classic divided his own units and makes them that much easier to conquer. Still, some energy here. Are there any more Banelings to help out? Warping in more Adepts. Ravagers raining down 4 Immortals on the back line, though. There's not that much in front of them as the Zerglings are able to draw the fire. Roaches and Ravagers crashing through, and Classic may have bitten off more than he could chew. The Immortals still going to work. Classic has an economic lead behind this. All he has to do is survive. Now, Reynor still mining comfortably. Classic just now taking his third. Or, well, saturating his third. He's got 23 workers there. I guess he's mining out of the natural as well. Oh, it was the Rich Vespine that was skewing the resources. Classic taking his own. So, the shade through with the Adepts, splitting it off, I think, was a clever move, but ended up being that critical mass of Adepts that he needed, essentially just splitting it in half. And that was enough for Reynor to break through, with a few Banelings coming in at an opportune time. It's just not how many times? It's died 3 times. And I don't know how many times it's been canceled or killed before it finished either. But fully finished extractors have died 3 times now. How many does he have? He still has 1250 left there. Rich Vespine Geysers mine twice as fast. But they don't have twice as much gas. So you just mine it out more quickly. At some point, it's not worth it to bother with anymore, but that point is still pretty far off. Immortals on the low ground. Traps in some of the Ravagers. Meanwhile, Adepts into the main. Reynor still very close on supply, which is not a good place to be as a Zerg player against such a beefy army here. But very key for Reynor. He's about to finish. +2 melee attack. Roach speed as well as Baneling speed. Classic just started Storm and is now getting +1. So there's going to be a window where Reynor actually has all these upgrades done. Especially Baneling speed. It's going to be so important. And the Warp Prism. Oh my. Juggling them just barely. And some of the Zerg units getting in the way of the Queens. Children. The Immortal count. So beefy. He's got 8 Immortals here. 20 Zealots, 12 Adepts. Not all with the army, but the vast majority. Reynor at only 50 drones. All Classic has to do is hold. And Storm, about 15 seconds out. 10. There's a counter. If that Storm is done, it gets a lot easier here. But here comes Reynor. Adepts at the back. The Warp Prism has stayed alive this whole time. Reynor crashing through with the Banelings, but the Storms! Oh no, the Banelings washed away, evaporated before they can get anywhere close. He has a couple more. Oh, absolutely immaculately done. A magnificent defense and Classic with a comfortable, stressful, but still comfortable 2-0 so far. Wow. Essentially perfect Storms. He kept control of the game. Reynor just never got his economy going at all. 50 drones was pretty much the peak. And with just Ravager Ling Bane against a maxed out, it's not going to be enough. And I want to point out how Classic was consistently scouting with hallucinated Phoenixes. He was consistently in the base with the Warp Prism. This wasn't just to try to do damage. He was scouting for a Spire, Hydra Den, even like an Infestation Pit for a Swarm Host switch. He was keeping tabs on pretty much everything Reynor could be doing while staying that close. Just that far out of reach. Oh god, it's so annoying to deal with this Zerg, but masterfully done for Classic. And off to a 2-0 start against the Italian Stallion. We're going into Ghost River. Thankfully, no Terrans here. Game 3. Classic with some top tier Protoss right now, and Reynor. It's the builds. Classic came prepared. Reynor, Zerg, kind of by definition, is usually less build order oriented. If the build isn't some sort of crazy all-in, it's build 3-ish hatcheries and then a bunch of queens. And either roaches or lings. Classic here breaking out some very particular timings in order to deal with exactly what Reynor is doing, or at least kind of keep control of the situation. The Adept Glaives have never been bad. They've always been a significant danger to Zerg. It's just there's a big risk to Adept Glaives as well. One, you shade a little too far, and then they just come across the map and you lose the game. You don't have a Stargate to fall back on. If you didn't go DTs, you don't have that. It is high risk and very, very high risk for high reward. But at the same time, if you're able to keep control of it, you can constantly pressure the Zerg and stay out of that late game scenario where they have 70, 80 drones. You got Lurkers, Vipers, maybe Broodlords. While Classic is a master of playing the late game, it is very difficult to deal with a Zerg who's grabbed map control. There's what, did that work? Did he actually? So, this map you don't really have any options for third. Oh my god. So you don't have unlike your cookie cutter other maps. Well, I guess Crimson Court is kind of mediocre for it, but you don't have options. You can't just go take the 4th like you can take a 3rd early on. In fact, I bet Classic. Well, what? Oh no, the drone couldn't even get away. Another drone comes up and takes the 3rd, but severely delayed here. Reynor with a much later Zergling speed because he wanted to take a quick 3 base. Like, Zergling speed, if you go hatch first into gas, usually finishes around 330 to 340. This Zergling speed, assuming that's even what he's doing, is starting at that time. So a full minute of delay. And the intent being, I want more minerals so I can get a hatch. So he can't block my hatch, because this map is really annoying to take a 3rd. But Classic, 1 probe hover ahead of him. The Oracle gets no kills. Good day, sir. Well, it's okay. Oh, 2 drones. The Classic, if you would. 2 drones and in the orange HP. Name a more iconic combo. Twilight Council. On the way, following up that Stargate in 2 gases. Behind. Ah. Oracle coming in towards the man. I think he wants to do a stasis, but... Brenda? Yeah, we could just... Did anyone know you could just kill the stasis? Has anyone tried that before? Shut up, Karen. I'm just saying. I'm just asking questions. The Adept shading across. The Umbrella Squad. I'm still working out. I'm open to ideas. For the Oracle Adept shade timing, it feels like it deserves a name. It's become quite a popular option. As the early mid-game timing here for Protoss to keep control of the situation. But Classic, it's going to be Adept Glaives again. I like how he's bringing all the pieces together here. Game 1, Cannon Rush, Stargate. Game 2, Adept Glaives into Immortals. Game 3, it's going to be a pylon block into Stargate, followed by Adept Glaives. All right, the 3rd course of this cheesy meal. And this is a bit of a cheese, because if Reynor right now knew Adepts were coming across the map, he would not be building more drones. In fact, he would very likely be building some spine crawlers at this stage. As if you can shut down these Adepts, he has 66 drones, which would be great if he wasn't about to get hit by Adepts. So how much larva does he have in the bank? That's going to be the important question. Will he have enough to build the roaches? The Adepts are here! They're just walking straight up the ramp. It only takes 1 shade to get from the 3rd to the other side. And Oracle is not taken down. The Adepts congregating here. And there's only a single queen to defend the 3rd. 7 drones down already in Classic. Has evened up the worker count. That's so many Adepts. He's just right-clicking on the hatch. What is this? He just tries to transfuse. Finishes it off. He just killed the hatch with Adepts. I mean, he has enough of them. It's a bit of a math problem here. It's more of a problem for Reynor, but some of the Adepts kind of getting shaded off to the side. But still, 5 more drone kills. Heads into the main. 4th base is done for Reynor. Wow, jams in against the spawning pool here. I don't know if that was better or worse for him, but the drones are all stacked up on the extractor there. Meanwhile, the Oracle finds an undefended 4th, and the worker lines. Oh, just that there's nowhere left to mine from. Oh my god. The refugee drone's getting chased down. More Adepts finally getting cleaned up. The drone, oh no! It's a disaster for Reynor. He's lost 24 drones. But with a capital B. What's back at home? He has 1 Immortal and 6 Zealots without charge. Brenda! We're going! We've had enough! It's our time! Eventually! Okay, Susan. Alright, we're walking. Whoa, the Roach is heading in. The Oracle comes back. Both of them light up. One of them with plenty of energy, but almost no HP. The other with plenty of HP and no energy. But any additional damage is going to be well warranted here. Is there enough energy for a force field? Takes down 1 Oracle. And the Queens have arrived. There's not enough energy for a force field, so the Queens will make it up the ramp. And that may be the backbone of this push. The Roach is going to help out. He's actually dropping creep, so he can maybe transfuse with those Queens. But getting caught out, the Queens engaging the Stalkers and the Immortals. A force field thrown out there just for dramatic effect, mostly. Transfuse on the spot of creep that's left. Targets down the Oracle. And Reynor, another token force field, but the Zerglings get the wraparound and knock out the Immortal. The Queens creep spreading forward. Oh my. Well, Classic with 62 probes. He hasn't lost a single probe throughout this so far. And he just seems to be holding every part of it. The Queen count drops to 3. They've been able to use their energy, which is more than they can usually say with these all-ins. Another Immortal goes down. Gets caught and killed. Another wave of Corrosive about to zone out. The Queen's retreating back. The numbers are thinning on the Roaches, but reinforcements are headed across the map. Reynor now has 4 bases behind. Wait, no, not 4 bases. He just re-expanded to his 3rd. The Queen's holding the line. But the line is being pushed back as Classic has the Immortal count to do so. And the Queen gets knocked out of the way. Gonna get a couple token Overlords here. In fact, Reynor's at 95 over 186, which is way too many Overlords. I don't know if he had way more supply. Well, he definitely had way more supply earlier, but... And he still has plenty of army. 44 drones. The one game that Reynor was able to get over 50 drones. Classic said, and I take offense to that. With this offense. A beautiful defense. Yet again. Able to hold the line. Sure, maybe ended up losing a couple. Only 2 Immortals. It felt like more because each death was so dramatic. But only 2 Immortals go down. And he doesn't lose a single probe. A man of the people. Well, whatever you want to consider probes as, but... Classic knows how to kill the workers and keep them alive. Reynor... Well... It's not as bad as the previous game. He has 4 bases. He's able to rebuild the drone count. He's got +1 going on +2 melee. But at the same time, the initiative is headed back towards Classic, who has the army to beat. The Dropper Lord and the Warp Prism gonna pass each other. Well, close enough. Well, that ain't happening. The charge lot, raring to go, but just trying to keep them busy. The Warp Prisms have been absolutely critical for Classic and incredibly well executed as well. It seems easy enough. Just keep the Warp Prism alive and keep them busy. Yeah, easier said. Much easier said than done. Even for Protoss, who don't have mounts. Storm is done. Fleet beacon on the way. And get off my... Gets it. Alright, finally the Warp Prism dies. And Zerglings in the main. Down goes 6 probes. He's not going to get too many more. Trying to micro into the Overlord like it's a medevac. Until you can get, afterburners. I don't think that's going to be much of an option, but a good attempt there. And Classic now forced back on the defense. The Fleet Beacon, though, still a dangerous tool. He adds it on. And Reynor's going to see the timing. So that's the most important part of all this. He's going to know the option for carriers, or maybe a mothership, even, as part of a tactical option, especially against the ground army. Reynor's got a Spire on the way. +2 melee attack is now done. Classic already has 3/3 in production. +3 ground weapons, +3 ground armor. He's got Storm. He's got the Templar. God. He's in pole position right now. And on match point. Reynor's going to have to put together a desperate defense against essentially the Protoss army. Immortals, Templar, Archons, Cannons, maxed out upgrades. The only thing he's missing are upgrades in the air. Classic, stop listening to the stream. Mothership on the way. +1 ranged attack. Or +1 flyers. No. +1 Protoss air weapons. You got it. For the carriers, and I guess technically for the mothership, Baneling drop is headed out. Adrenal glands on the way. Greater Spire. Reynor making his Spire great again. The Baneling drop his Spire. God, he's so diligent. Classic is covering his bases in the literal and figurative senses. The Phoenix just zoning out. Ah! Adrenal glands on the way. And Reynor's going straight up to Greater Spire here. Which, he doesn't really have the economy to go across the board on high tech. You can't go Ultras and Broodlords and Vipers. You kind of got to pick a lane. So he chooses the Spire. And obviously you do need some anti-air to deal with carriers. It is an expensive option, but if he's able to put the pieces together, and if he does have more money in the bank, if he's able to put these pieces together, it will pay off. Part of the reason Reynor has more in the bank is because Classic's army is already so good. Like Classic, well, he's going to lose a Prism, lose a few more Zealots, but he's already got 8 Templar on the field. He has a mothership done. He has carriers already arrived. So, he's already expended what would have been his bank. Oh no. Well, the Banelings, at least stressing out the probes. And technically scouting the mothership, but not exactly the ideal scouts. More Banelings rolling in. Classic scrambling to defend. Cloaks! How does he see him? Does he need to see him? I guess he doesn't. If the Banelings die close enough, it doesn't really matter if they see their targets or not. 17 probes down. The entire Sky Toss army is coming back to defend. That is Protoss right there. This is almost the strongest army you can build. He's just missing some of the upgrades. Is there Neural Parasite? He's building a couple Infestors, but no Neural Parasite, no Burrow. A Sporist is coming online. Reynor is doing a very good job of keeping Classic contained by dragging him back with just Zerglings and Banelings. The best way to deal with this is slowly whittle down his economy and force him into a poor fight. Because fighting heads up against that is incredibly difficult. But the Spore Crawlers, how many does he have? 25 Spore Crawlers. Gonna help to zone things out. A bunch of the Roaches headed across the map. Storm onto the Broods. Time Warp as well. Looking for anything else. Honestly, Microbial Shroud might be the option underneath. Infestors waltzing in. Broodlord being targeted by the carriers, but the Sporist is helping out. Zerglings will melt under the power of the storm. The mothership, though, is being targeted. The Queen's going to take it all so close. One shot away. One knitting needle. Or just a Spore Crawler takes it down. More storms going forward. Corruptors well spread. Still Archons underneath. The Roaches took out the base at the back. Broodlords guiding to the back line. And overall, Classic actually losing a lot of supply here. The carriers are completely out of interceptors, but the Immortals have bashed their way forward. Well, he recalls whatever he can. He does so at the base, but he actually lost his third Nexus. So where does that leave us? A devastating exchange. Loses another carrier. A couple immortals getting caught out. Either you're recalled or you're not at all. A corruptor. Oh no, the zealots are going to warp in here. And Reynor is down to 57 workers. And he's got no money in the bank. He's got oh my. A Sporchard will block out. Corruptors are caustic spraying a Stargate, but the carriers come back to defend that from whence they came. Brood Lords grinding through. 4 of them survived the ordeal. And Reynor may have had enough to fall back on. +2 air weapons only now about to complete. I think that was the big oversight for Classic. If it ends up not heading his way by the end of this, not having air weapons against spore crawlers, against queens, there's no carapace for Reynor. But the weapon upgrade's very helpful for the carriers to get the damage done quickly so they don't get chipped away at by the spore crawlers. In Classic, carriers are a rich man's unit. You gotta pay a tax on each one of them. Every interceptor that goes down makes it a little easier for Reynor to get the economic knockout. He surrounds and kills an Archon of all things. The Prima Strategy Guide says Archons counter Zerglings, but those Zerglings are opportunistic creatures. Or just bloodthirsty. Both ways. Reynor, casual, 800 APM on average. Classic, almost half that. The spores in front, good fungals to zone out. And just using the fungals on the interceptors. Storm is good on the roaches, but doesn't do anything to the spores. He's losing so many interceptors. He grinds his way through a lot of spore crawlers. 18 probes dead. Whether roaches or banelings or some combination of the two. So this is the last army that's left. And I don't think it's enough. Reynor has kept... Wait, what happened to this base? When did that die? Maybe during the last fight, he just didn't bother rebuilding. It's died... Oh, the storms are just melting the broods, but the corruptors are on top of the carriers. Another warping attempted mid-fight will be knocked down. And GG. Reynor strikes back, but it was far from easy. The longest game yet. Reynor gets battered down, almost turns it around with a full-on Queen all-in, and brings us into a slugfest of a late game, where neither player really comfortably maxed out at any point. But at the end of the day, Reynor has enough to break through and hold on. Honestly, quite impressed. Reynor has always been very aggressive. So being able to pull back, get that hive tech, and then the spore crawler explosion. Well, it certainly worked out this time. And that brings us, well, he's got a point on the board. We'll see what Classic has in store going forward, though. God, he's had a build for each map. He's had a preparation. I think it's more like a flowchart. Like, if he takes the gold, we're going to cannon rush. If not, maybe a depth, son. But clearly Classic has a plan. But Reynor, finally, able to deflect it. We're going into Site Delta. The most inoffensive map in the pool. Yeah, Site Delta, like, it has essentially does not upset anyone. Protoss, Zerg, Terran, it's the loco of maps. Alright? You're gonna get good games. You're gonna be pretty happy about them. And no one's gonna get too upset. Family-friendly maps. And we'll see how long that it's maintained for. But it does feel like one of those maps that's gonna last like 3-4 seasons. No matter how many interesting new ones we throw into the pool. Because pro gamers will always want to have at least one cookie cutter kind of play it with your eyes half open sort of map. And here we are. But still, I'm incredibly impressed by Classic. I already knew Classic is a great Protoss. But historically, he's been stereotyped as the late game player. The rushing to carriers or 3 bases and with like 4 units. To a fault. Many times he just gets all in and dies. But this is kind of a new classic I think we're seeing. Who is coming very prepared to deal with everything Reynor's throwing at him. Well, actually, he's throwing things at him first and then controlling the response. Which I think is the way you have to play against Zerg the majority of the time. That's how Reynor plays against Zerg. Who better to know? Reynor actually one of the top 10 Protoss in the world. Fun fact. Though he only plays it at least most of the time against Zerg. Rather PvZ than ZvZ, apparently. Can you really blame him? Also, great games for the fans. Overlord hanging out. Stalker. Stalking. Adept continually scouting, looking for the drone count, trying to keep track of the Zerglings. Staying on the edge of things. It's going to be a relatively quick speed timing. And Adept Glaives. Here we go. It's just a straight up Glaives. I'm sitting here, I'm racking my brain for whether he's doing anything different, but this is kind of your stock Glaives build. It's an old build, but it checks out. There, in fact, Jimmy, get my meme binder out. Yes, we have, no, we don't, they're binders. We have binders full of memes. No, that, old memes. Let's see. We're too late. The production tab changed. But, yes. Ye old Glaives all in. It has been, well, it's only been a couple games, but it was for a while the 3 Oracle opener of PvZ. But this time around, Reynor is going mass Zergling, which is, oh, Brenda, no, why are you out here? No, it's avenge me. Well, never mind, it's fine. Hey, oh. Adepts, get the surround on the queens. There's Zerglings waiting for their opportunity on the other side. Forces a warp in. He tried to break through. Reynor does have 45 drones. We'll see what the number is by the time this is all said and done. More Adepts into the main. Queen getting a lot of damage onto the Prism, but the drone count is dropping. Adept shading through. Zergling's trying to get in, but a pylon behind. Wait, is this? I don't think that's right. Well, you can wall that off with an Adept. It worked out. Adepts continuing to shade across the board. And Reynor, well, he's denied any attempt at a third. He actually canceled his lair to get more roaches out to defend this, which I think made the difference. It's the difference between outright losing most of his drones and a tenuous 3-base economy. And being able to keep Classic from getting his, I think is a huge deal in keeping Reynor going here. We'll see how he follows it up. Immortals already in production. Unfortunately, canceling the lair, while very important in order to stay alive, is going to set him back. Adept still. There's one queen on the low ground. Adepts actually get caught, but a whole bunch more still on the map. He's got an observer, helping to take out some of the creep as well. The warp prism, just a few knitting needles away. 3 more gates. Adepts consolidating once again. Still a uncomfortable position for Reynor. As until he gets roach speed, he can't reliably deal with the Adept Glaives. He just kind of has to split his forces and do a little bit of praying that he doesn't get caught too far out of position. But Classic, building up the Immortals. Notice he hasn't really added any probes. He's still sitting at 45. He's masking his unit production yet again. And kind of baiting Reynor into... Well, Reynor's not taking the bait. He's building plenty of roaches and lings. He may actually just be looking to all in himself. And that could work out well for him. Oh my. Couple sentries on the way. Here we go again, this beefy army. The Adept Shades on both sides. Very likely, yeah, he just cancels, but he actually drags Reynor back. In the force fields, he doesn't have any Ravagers. He's locked out. The Ravager could knock it down from the side, but the Roach Warren, it may be taken out. The force fields are beautiful. Annexing both bases. Takes down one side, but the Queens and Roaches are stuck to the right. The Zerglings come back and deal with it. Does he have another round to follow it up? There's not that much more energy. The Guardian Shield used, and he's jammed himself in between both bases. Reynor really struggling to deal with this position. He doesn't have the units. He doesn't have the composition. There's no Banelings. There's not enough Ravagers. This kind of early mid-game army is very difficult to contest cost-effectively, or at all. He has to rebuild the Roach Horn, the wall being used against him. Classic waiting for the units to come down and engage, but he decides to just go for the third. He knows that no Roaches or even Ravagers can be built for quite a while. He took out the Roach Horn, he locks out the rest of the units. There's not a single Ravager! You are locked in here with me, and there's no question about it, says Classic, who's bashing his way through the Roaches. Another round of force fields. The Zerglings trickle through, but the Roaches are boxed out. Some just immaculate force fields. The precision was perfect. A beautiful execution in every sense of the word. And Classic, in a decisive 3-1 victory, takes it over Reynor. Beautifully done. It is that sort of early mid-game Protoss that is so frustrating to deal with on the ladder. That style that I think leads Reynor to play some Protoss himself. But Classic deserves the victory here today. And an impressive one at that. Really keeping control, even in the game he lost. Feeling like he had opportunities the whole time. And keeping Reynor away from him. So, I hope it made your day a little bit better. It made mine a little bit better. You love to see it. Thank you for watching. If you haven't yet checked out Patreon or YouTube membership, if you got the means of motivation, that'd be awesome. Otherwise, I hear liking and subscribing is still free for now. If you haven't yet checked out the second channel, we got streams, we got more videos, more content, if you're into that. Otherwise, checking out recommended for another cast. That's what YouTube recommends to me. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.